Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, even though we hate to say it, we'll be the first to admit it. Sometimes things fall through the cracks. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with, once more, as always. My name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals, and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more, in a light and in a conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because quite frankly, you're listening right now. Please subscribe to the podcast. Hit that like and subscribe button. Give us the old 5-star rating. Wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, we're pretty much everywhere. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would really appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram at, well, you guessed it, we're at In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, I'm a broken record on this point, but it's true, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large, because if we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please pay us a visit. On this episode, we got one fell through the cracks, we'll admit it. This one's on us, but this is a lovely little movie which is playing in select theaters still around Canada, and I do suspect the States, but it's coming to VOD imminently as well. It's called Ali and Ava, and it's the story of two people who are just lonely for different reasons, and they meet, and sparks fly, and a deep connection grows. But, you know, there's the legacy of Ava's past relationship, and Ali's got emotional turmoil going on because he's in the middle of a marriage that's breaking down. It's just a fascinating story of two people sort of finding each other in, you know, an awkward, vulnerable moment, and an important part of their lives to sort of be with each other and give each other comfort. It's absolutely a beautiful film from writer-director Clio Barnard, and we had the unique pleasure of sitting down with one of the film's stars, Adeel Akhtar, just in terms about getting the role and sort of the quality of the material and just sort of the nature of the story that's being told here. It's personal, it's dramatic, but it's genuine and it's honest too. It's really a beautiful film, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. But like I said, check your local listings for Ali and Ava. But enjoy our talk with Adeel, because between you and me, it's a pretty good one.
All right, well, I mean, Adeel, obviously, first off, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate this.
Gee, thanks for chatting. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Now, I mean, congratulations on the movie, man. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I guess walk me through sort of getting, like, the initial moments of getting the script on your desk and your sort of your reactions to it.
So, this was not like any other sort of film I've been a part of, in that I had me and Klein met at the Toronto Film Festival because my agent told me that she was there, and I expressed an interest in like all her stuff, like all her work, all the way back from the Arbor. And it was a kind of, I suppose, maybe a point in my career where it was a slim chance whether she was gonna say yes to meet up. You know, I didn't have like loads of clout, and I still don't really, but you know, she was kind enough to say yes. And from that point on, we just really hit it off as people. I think we just really got on with each other, and yeah, we just sort of exchanging ideas about films and art and poetry, you know, all the stuff really. And then a bit of a while later, we met up in a pub in London where we were just sort of, she introduced the idea of what this film would be about, where she had transcripts of people's interviews that she had. And then we met up again, and we worked on my character a bit, just, you know, very generally. And then she went away and wrote a script. So all that to say that it was this kind of slow moving, very sort of non-traditional process of developing a character, but maybe also she was away developing a plot. And then by the end of it, we found ourselves in a rehearsal room trying to bring some of this stuff to life, and cut to, you know, filming on the day where I suppose we had a traditional script, but then at the same time, Claire and I felt very free to either bring things off the page or lean into improvisations a little bit. And so, yeah, it's, I suppose I talk so long about it because it's really difficult to explain in a succinct way what this process was, because it's like nothing I've ever done before.
Well, I mean, and I love that because I mean, it really allows for such a natural tone to the material. And I mean, I think something I really appreciated about it is that it has this sense of hopefulness to it, but it's almost an angry hopefulness. And I mean, when you're working with with Claire, because I mean, you have such a great dynamic with her. Like, how do you try to sort of capture this really sort of unique emotion? Because I don't think this is something we've ever really seen on screen before.
Sure, it's interesting. I've never thought about the angry hopefulness, but I can understand that. I think it comes from the people, actually. The people in the north of England and around Bradford and Yorkshire, they don't really mince their words, when it comes to how they feel or what they think the right way is to do something. So I think, for these characters, I think the anger comes from really understanding where they're at, and knowing how to progress, and knowing how, it's very clear cut for them. And it's only the things around them, either societal pressures or pressures from communities and cultures and stuff like that, that complicate it. But actually, on a very human level, they're very clear cut about how they feel and what motivates them.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's where the anger comes from. The anger comes from, well, it's clear to me. Is it not clear to you? And then the hope is, I suppose, that this human, their expression of humanity will find a connection. And they are very hopeful people, yeah, as a whole, people in Bradford and the Yorkshire area are just so kind and considerate for their community and will help whenever they can. And Ali offering a lift is just like, well, if you can help someone, you would, I think that's where the hope comes in, because it's
For sure.
yeah.
And I mean, I love just how music was used as a unifier for your characters. I mean, did you guys have any influence on that, or was that all Clio? Like, where did that sort of come from?
So in the sort of audition-y chat kind of process of expanding on the character, Clio would ask me what music I was listening to at the time and music that I sort of really connected to. And then Connie was the sort of music supervisor. And so she went away and looked at what music we could actually have, because, there's so many rights involved in a lot of stuff. And then a lot of Clio stuff, her tastes and influences are in there as well. So it was, again, in the way that I described the process of the film, even collecting the music seemed like this really organic stew of like people's influences and favorite bands and things. And so it's all in there. But luckily, like when I look at the film, that's my taste in music as well. So I just love the soundtrack as well. Like all that stuff is stuff I'd listen to. So
well, and I mean, I've got to imagine it allows for sort of a freeing character moment when you're just like sort of grooving out to the music, but sort of standing there in the dusk on your car and just sort of being there. Like, I mean, do moments like that as an actor really allow you to sort of, I guess, just cut loose and sort of really, I guess, be expressive without really having to say it?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. And also because of the nature of Clio's process and the way she makes films, like there was a lot of contributing factors to that scene that once you get there, you realize it couldn't have been done any other way. So for example, we were hoping for a clear day. We were hoping to sort of clear vista of like Bradford. And it turned out that it was a misty day, like a sort of overcast day. And it was something that was maybe, I don't think it was scripted. It was maybe something that was added that they were going to, but again, you find yourself in the process of the film and you realize that something like that is really needed, whoever, Clio and producers making a decision going, but there's something very free about it that you connect to as an actor and you go, we're really in the process of figuring out what this film needs. So when you're actually doing a scene like that, it just feels like as an actor, it feels like a really pure expression of, it just feels like pure filmmaking as you're acting it out, you know, if it's sort of, and then weirdly it becomes the fulcrum of the character. But it was, in some ways, it could be argued that it wasn't even there until they know they needed it, sort of thing. And it's beautiful, actually. It's just I can go on and on about it, but that's because of her freedom as a filmmaker. She can really sort of see that something like that is needed, but in anybody else's hands, that would seem like a bit of a risk, or like, why is it even necessary?
Or even contrived in a way. It comes off really in a natural sense. And I mean, that's really the spirit of the film, because I mean, there are so many sequences that just feel so honest and so raw. And I mean, how does Claire sort of create or engender that trust? Because I mean, there's moments between you and Claire where it's very raw and it's very honest, and I mean, there's some real connection going on between these characters, and you have to allow yourself to have that. How does she sort of engender that environment to allow you both to sort of hit those spots where you have to get to?
I think because she presents the story in a way that she's not the authority over it. She's not the person. She hasn't got this sort of like authorial thing. We're not sort of looking to please her, although we want to please her.
Right.
There's something more important at risk, more important at stake, which is how do you, as Ali and Ava and Adeel and Claire, how do you react to this situation now? And that's really freeing for an actor, because she's sort of saying, you can do anything, you can go anywhere, you can do anything, and you're not constrained by the idea of what you think this should be. The only thing that you should be true to is trying to find the truth of the character.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's a really, and in work that's really good that I love doing. There's a sense of freedom in that is like unparalleled, really. You can just, and that's why it probably comes across at moments quite natural, because you really are just speaking, you know, you really are just speaking, and you really are just speaking. And it's great.
Now, I mean, just to start putting a bow on this is a silly question, but it's one I always like to ask.
Yeah.
Is there like a moment or like something you saw in your younger life that had the light bulb go off for you, like a performance or a film that made young Adeel want to say, okay, I want to be an actor?
Yeah, I wonder, like, who could it? I'm not sure if it was any one performance, but I think it was the those guys or those performers who fudged the line between when you're on, and when you're off, you know.
Right.
It was those guys, because I don't know, whenever you watch them act, it sort of felt that they were right there with you, that they were sort of, and I remember being, whatever, I used to see that on TV, or, you know, even in the theatre or in film. Whenever I saw that, I was like, oh, there's something really powerful in that. There's like there's something really amazing in having the ability to do that. So yeah, and that's the same with the creatives, like the people who make films like that, and the people who, you know, so that, I think that's my, and there's loads of guys who are like that, I feel.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, just to wrap it up, I mean, just in talking to you now, I can really feel like this is one of those jobs that you're not going to let go of anytime soon. It was a real, definitely special experience for you. And I mean, I'm kind of curious, how do jobs like this inform you going forward as an actor?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working that out now, you know, and I suppose the thing is that there's a sort of there's a feeling that is kind of that you have now moving forward, where, you know, when you're proximate to the work that you want to do, because you feel a sense of creative freedom.
Right.
You feel a sense of true collaboration, which is with a person which is full of humility and full of problem solving together. And I suppose it's sort of informed it in that way. And whether that work comes my way or not, the die's cast a little bit for me to go, oh, I love doing stuff like that. And that doesn't mean it has to be sort of big budget stuff, or
right.
Yeah. And normally it doesn't actually. Normally it's like the little quieter bit, right? It's like the little quieter films where you can mitigate against all the noise and the nonsense, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, you know what, man? I'm glad you got that meeting in Toronto. Being in Toronto, obviously, I'll take a little bit of credit
Yeah,
for that.
good.
But I mean, I
100%
love
good.
that this was born out of such a fantastic meeting, and it's a great piece of
Yeah,
work. And just thank you so much for the time today, man.
thank
Again, congrats
you.
on the film.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks
All
for the
right.
chat. Cheers.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.